Welcome to The Ride with Chevy and Nasty. Host Randy Chevrier and Sheldon Napastia guide you through great stories that spark great conversations. Two really big guys talking a big game. The boys are locked in and ready to go. Welcome to The Ride.
All right, and welcome to The Ride, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's The Ride with Chevy and Nasty, but as you can see, we got no Chevy. Chevy couldn't make it, so today it is I guess it's the Daryl and Nasty show. Daryl McAvena, welcome to your first co-hosting gig with the Ride with Chevy and Nasty.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Nasty. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm not sure. Chevy's got a busy schedule today, so he's hanging out with the kids and doing some stuff that he's got to do for coaching and that. So good for him. And I appreciate you having me on and just slide in as just kind of a sub.
No, I love it. Like we've had you on the show before. We've had you telling some of your stories and whatnot. But for those of you guys that are regular viewers or listeners, Daryl is also the founder and CEO and president of Performance Freight Management, one of the big sponsors here on the show. And one of the things that's so cool about your company, like you guys really specialize in doing like just cool, unique jobs. Like if somebody needs a WestJet needs a new wing or a winglet or something like that, right? You transport that. What was the coolest thing that you found? What's the oddest thing that you've ever been asked to ship, whether across the country or across the globe or wherever? Yeah,
I think the biggest, uniquest item we ever had to ship was the 30-foot treadmill. And, it was a 30-foot treadmill, had a green tarp, it was massive. And we requested to move it from Ontario to Alberta. And, once we got it here, we had to do a lot of specialized movement with it. It had to be put in a certain position and transferred in from one building to another with a crane. And ultimately that whole movement was for a TV show on HBO called Game of Thrones. And it was pretty cool to see because the treadmill was actually used for these wolves that would run on a treadmill. Instead of going to Scotland and shipping the wolves, Right. They used the treadmill to have a green space or green drop so that they could video the wolves running on this treadmill. And man, it was pretty incredible. I got to spend some time at the sanctuary where the wolves were. Got to help set it up. I got very diverse in setting it up, but the lady that runs it got to tell me the whole story. She had 60 wolves there from 60 different places around the world. It was incredible. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Did
you get to see the wolves run on the treadmill, or?
I did, yeah. I got to see them. It was pretty incredible, and I don't know if this story's ever been out there, but the producer, she was looking for the 61st. Wolf, and the producer actually, I think it was from Asia or somewhere that she didn't have this specific wolf. He actually bought it for her and shipped it out and had this special wolf that she wanted to have for her sanctuary. And it was pretty impressive. It was unique movement for PFM but we got all kinds of strange requests, and that one was probably the best one.
See, and I love that too, because if you're in trucking, shipping, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's your regular stuff in, out all the time. But it's these special ones that kind of come with those unique stories when a person's sitting there saying, how the heck are we going to pull this off? So I think that's kind of cool. But another thing that you've been able to pull off for us here is we're announcing our second annual Men's Mental Health Movie Night. That's going to be coming up here in just about a month. But you've brought on a special guest. He's going to be the keynote speaker on this night. But he's going to come on the show here a little bit, so you guys can start to get to know him a little bit. What can you tell us about Brett Gardiner?
Yeah, Brett Gardiner is amazing. I mean, he's been at the CFR, the Canadian Finals Rodeo, 13 times, and the only reason he's been there 13 times is because he has to get nominated by all the professional rodeo cowboys and cowgirls, and so he's been the announcer of the year 13 times, which is completely unheard of and impressive. He's been the announcer at the greatest outdoor show on earth for many years. He's standing on the stage at the Calgary Stampede, which is unbelievable. He's worked with Professional Bull Riders, PBR, as the announcer of the year there, and also with TSN. It's broadcast all across TSN. He also won the Zane Lambert Lifetime Achievement Award that's voted by all the cowboys at the PBR, and he's the rodeo announcer that got that, and it's just impressive. And, to kind of sum up his rodeo announcing career, he's got this other career that is based on mental health and keynote speaking. And so he's a trained psychologist counselor. He's an expert at it, high performance coach. And he is ultimately the second annual keynote speaker at the Men's Mental Health Movie Night. So we're excited that he's coming. And yeah, we are excited to have Brett Gardiner on the Chevy Nasty show today.
Right on, guys. I got to hear him speak once before, and yeah, he's an amazing speaker. I can't wait for the next segment. So right now, why don't you guys grab yourself a quick treat, maybe a drink, maybe a snack, do what you got to do. But when we come back, we got Brett Gardiner live with us here on The Ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Do you want your business to be known? YYCCalgaryBusiness.ca is Calgary's only online media platform that gets you noticed. Short-form video content is rapidly taking over as the most effective way to engage your audience. Whether you're being interviewed on a vodcast, sharing a sizzle reel, or even hosting your own show, there is one place you can publicize your business. We want to tell your story and introduce you to our network of empowered business owners and leaders right here in Calgary. Isn't it time you took your digital game to 11? Call us or email us now.
And welcome back to The Ride with Chevy and Nasty. Well, of course, we have Daryl and Nasty today, but as we were just talking about the man, the myth, the legend himself, we have Mr. Brett Gardiner. Brett, you and Daryl go back a few years. Do you not? Like, did you guys meet through the rodeo connection, or how did you guys first meet?
Yeah, gee, it's hopefully our stories might line up if we both have to tell them here, Mac. But I got to say thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. It's great to see you. And it's probably a matter of opinion if it's better with or without Chevy. But we'll let maybe him decide when he watches it. But Mac and I got to meet a few years ago through some mutual friends, kind of in the rodeo world, and I think we knew each other's names for a long time. Daryl was, of course, a former competitor, and just for the record, he's a couple years older than me. So kind of when my rodeo career maybe started to gain some momentum, I think he was probably nearing retirement. Is that safe to say, Mac, or what do you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm a veteran.
He's just really immature and young at heart, so we think he's so darn young all the time. But yeah, we met through some mutual friends, and I remember probably one of the places that we got connected again a few years ago is at the Sports Medicine Golf Tournament, an event that PFM and your team sponsored the last handful of years that you're a part of. So that was one of those places I think where we got reconnected again, and have had just a great relationship ever since.
Right on. So we were reading off your bio a little bit earlier. Pretty impressive career that you had. But what strikes me is you're a kid from Sylvan Lake. Is that right?
Yeah, Sylvan Lake's been home for nearly 20 years. I grew up in Drayton Valley, not too far from here, about an hour and a half kind of northwest of here. So yeah, kind of small town kid my whole life.
So talk about that coming from Drayton. Is that something that all kids in Drayton Valley do? Is they get into rodeo? It's like putting on skates and picking up a stick, or how'd you get into rodeo?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's I think it's funny. That's where I started. I picked up a stick and some skates and played hockey, and I thought I was going to be an NHL star. But I say in my story, little did I know that I needed to be half talented, and I lacked that in the game of hockey. So, but yeah, I was a hockey guy, and Drayton Valley was a pretty good hockey community. There were certainly some great families there that were in the Western sports world, in the rodeo industry. But I always say I kind of got into it by accident. I moved away and played some hockey, and when I came back to finish up my high school in Drayton Valley, I'd always really appreciated that agricultural industry in the Western sports world, and was a rodeo fan. And I started competing kind of the end of grade 11 and into my grade 12 year at the high school rodeo level. And competed in a few different events. I just loved it. It was just so much fun. And I was still somewhat athletic then. So I just kind of picked up after the hockey days and did some rodeo stuff. But like my hockey career, I just was no good. So the announcing thing kind of came by way of somebody finally said to me, "Hey, you never shut up, and you like rodeo, and you're not very good at it. Maybe you should try this announcing thing." So all of a sudden, I'm this 18-year-old rodeo announcer, which is no one's real story. It's like it found me by accident, some 25 years later. I'm like, "Oh, right, you're an announcer," because that was never the plan, brother. That was never where I was headed. So it was just kind of by accident that I fell into it.
Well, let me ask you about that too, because I got to imagine. I was going to ask you, what was that like the first time you're competing on a horse that was without a saddle that was trying to buck you off? But then, second of all, I mean, public speaking is, you ask most people, and it's their biggest phobia. Don't put me up in front of a crowd. I don't want to hear my mic. I hate the sound of my voice. What was more nerve-wracking for you, getting on a horse without a saddle that was trained to kick you off the first time live, or getting up there in front of a group of true cowboys and trying to keep them entertained and keep the show moving?
Gosh, I've never had that question in all these years. I appreciate it. To be honest, I think it was probably, riding bareback horses, because I was really scared the whole time. I got hurt. I wasn't good at it, but I just wanted to be a tough cowboy. And it was really scary. I still have like flashbacks, like I said, some 25 years ago, like, what was I thinking? But I guess the public speaking and speaking in front of people piece kind of came naturally. So for me personally, it was probably, the rough stock game that was more fearful for me than the public speaking piece. But I think I came to that kind of naturally. And even in school was, willing to be a part of things and stand up in front of people and talk. So it was something that I probably got from, I was going to say, from my parents. My dad's a wonderful man, and my mom too, but she was always willing to kind of get up and speak to people and help people out. So I probably followed in her footsteps there.
Yeah, very cool. Now, as you start doing that, like, sometimes when for hockey teams, the guy with the goalie equipment always has a team to play on.
Sure.
You're the guy with a voice. Like, how did it turn from you get up there and do your first couple of gigs to, geez, this guy, we like his voice? When did you start getting sought after and called to travel to different locations?
Yeah, cool. I remember I went to University of Lethbridge. I was going to be a school teacher and was a school teacher for nearly 15 years. But I remember being my first year university, and I'd done a few little events, like helped out at some little britches rodeos, and I thought that was cool. I was going to be a teacher. I want to help kids, and I want to stay connected to the rodeo world. But again, kind of just got lucky. Right place, right time. I remember getting a phone call on a Friday night at home. I was back in Drayton Valley at mom and dad's, kind of my first year of university. And a gentleman said, "Hey, we've got a bull riding event in Whitecourt, little town again in Alberta." I shouldn't say little, it's, continues to grow. And there's, so I'm like, well, I'm not an announcer, because this is not, like I say, this is not what I was going to do. There's nothing cool about being an 18 or a 19-year-old announcer. This is what you do when you're retired. That was a story in my head at the time. But like I said, he said the magic words. I remember he said, "Hey, we'll pay you $300 cash." So I loaded up my Volkswagen Jetta and off I went, and then when I did that event and I finished it, the same gentleman said, "Hey, we've got 10 or 12 of these next year, and we would love if you would consider doing them all." So it was never really something, to be honest, that I'd really had my sights set on that I was going to do. But then I was just kind of forced to make a decision. I'm like, geez, am I going to do this thing? And in my business, that's a big deal. You'll see super talented announcers maybe kind of gain 1 or 2 events a year. There's not a million rodeos in Canada, right? Or bull riding events. So we do have a limited number. And if somebody's there, and sometimes they stay there and there's some loyalty and they're doing a good job, an announcer can go places 10, 15, 25 years. So there's not always a lot of job openings. So when that happened for me, it was a big opportunity. And I was just kind of like, well, should I do this? And I thought, you know what, let's give it a try. I like it. I can hang out with my pals. I can stay connected to the sport. So that for me, all of a sudden, that's when it kind of took off. Now I'm 19 or 20. And, in my world, I'm a full-time rodeo announcer. So that's kind of how it gained some momentum for me. That's kind of 2004, 2005. And then for me, probably the biggest moment in my career was 2005 when I got the Wild Rose Finals. It's just a little, I shouldn't say little. At the time, it was the biggest event that I could ever think of announcing, and was fortunate enough to get selected to go there. And then a year later, 2006, I went to Medicine Hat, to the Stampede, to the Summer Rodeo, a big top 10 rodeo alongside Dave Paulson, who's the doc himself, man, just a tremendous mentor and a wonderful friend. And he said to Medicine Hat, hey, he said, there's this young guy and I think he might be somebody someday. And I guess the rest is history. Here we are.
See, and that's crazy because you nailed it. Like, when you're in high school and you're playing sports like Chevy and I, football, whatnot,
Sure.
You're not even thinking about the broadcast gig. Not until much later in your career when you realize how well some of those guys get paid, or that they're bigger stars and they're around the game longer than we are. But like you said, it kind of comes down to it. You were getting paid. Everybody else was paying to go to the event, and so that's kind of cool. But now, like, you're only in it for a couple of years at that point, and you said the Medicine Hat Stampede. I mean, so now you're getting into some pretty big events. When did it jump from there to being like the guy in the local tours to like the Calgary Stampede and going down and doing major events in the States? Because that's almost like a kid going from playing junior football in the Okanagan to starting spot with the in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's crazy. Like, the first time you heard Calgary Stampede, what was that like?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was amazing. And there was probably an 8 or 10 year kind of span in that career where, you'd gain a few events here and there. And then for me, it was probably 13, 14 years ago when I won the Announcer of the Year in Canada for the first time. A few more people start to pay attention, and then I was still kind of in my late 20s at that time. So I was pretty young still, kind of the new kid on the block, but all of a sudden they said, oh, I guess this, maybe he's here to stay. And some of those events certainly followed. I got to go to the Canadian Finals Rodeo and have been there, 11 or 12 seasons, and kind of same with Calgary. And my experience with Calgary is I eased in. I did some events that were kind of off the main stage, if you would. They have so many things going on there. So it worked some other venues and been a part of that. And then when I eased into Calgary, I remember, it was a pretty special moment when I got to go there and stand on that stage for the very first time. And I'll tell you, if you have a minute for me to tell my Calgary Stampede story,
Absolutely.
I was, it's nearly 10 years ago now. And I was got to be one of the big three alongside two gentlemen, one by the name of Wayne Brooks and the other by the name of Bob Tallman. And in my industry, Bob Tallman is the absolute greatest of all time. There's just no better. He is an icon. He's a legend. He's a whatever word you have. He is absolutely it. He's revolutionized the game so many times. And Wayne Brooks, a lot of people will consider just the very best all-around announcer to this day. He's as smooth as there is. He's as professional as there is. So I'm alongside two Texans, and here's this man, chubby cheek, just fast talking Canadian, just living his dream, the same place that I went with my grandpa when I was a kid. And it's just, wow, here I am. And I remember Wayne Brooks said, hey, Canada, you need to be so proud of this guy. For the very first time on the microphone at the Calgary Stampede, here's Brett Gardiner. And I said, hey, Wayne, Thank you so much. I'll tell you what, here we go. It's about to get underway in the tie-down rope and competition, and I start going. And I start announcing the wrong competitor the very first time in Calgary. I'm like, here comes Sheldon, but it's actually Chevy. And I'm like, and so I'm like, well, I'm glad I got that one out of the way, and kind of had to laugh it off like 45 seconds into my Stampede career. So the biggest mistake you can basically make, I made it in the first 60 seconds of Calgary, and I'm still going back. So obviously, it wasn't that big a deal, but I'll never forget it. I'm like, they set me up on a tee, baby, and I brought it. and I brought you the wrong guy. So it was just one of those deals, I'll tell you. But it was
that's a hell of a story, though, Brett. I mean, I think Daryl, and I'm sure you can attest to that as well. So many times when you're about to make that first big step, like something like that happens. My son played his first major orchestra event not long ago, and he forgot to stand when the conductor walked on the stage, and just little things like that. You're going to make mistakes as a rookie. It's going to happen, right? Because you're not fully in the zone. But it's good that you can laugh about it, because honestly, that's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny.
That's great. And I think, that's kind of a neat little segue into, Brett, what's, as you're going through that career as an announcer, like what's the adversity that, the kind of that situation or that pivotal point in your life where you started facing some serious adversity with announcing? Because, our listeners probably are trying to figure it out. Like, man, that must be, like Sheldon said earlier, that must be challenging with hundreds of thousands of people, whether it's on TV or in the stands. What is that adversity or the situation that you had to deal with at one point? What stands out in your mind?
Yeah, again, cool question. I think for me personally, and I know that everybody's story is unique to them, but I think for me, it was always just trying to find my foothold and who I was and how I was supposed to show up in that industry. It's certainly a unique one, and in that performance role, and it's like you're always trying. For me, it's like I'm always trying to impress. I'm always trying to, kind of have to prove yourself to the listener or the people in the grandstand. We want to deliver the very best show we can for them. And I say, for me, it was almost be careful what you wish for type of thing, because I was very driven, and I'm like, I want to be at Calgary. I want to be at the CF4. I want to be at TSN. But I quickly came to find that I didn't get to phone it in anymore. Not that that's my style, but there was this just building pressure, because I gained some notoriety and got a reputation. And it's like, hey, the big moments, I was the guy that was starting to get the shoulder tap. If somebody's got to bring the heat, and I mean, it's a Canadian title and it's a race to the bitter end, Brett Gardiner, we're going to put the microphone in his hand. And, so it was like, those are great moments, and I lived for them, and I was just so excited. But there was more and more of those moments, and I felt like I just kind of had to continue to deliver. I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to let myself down. And there was certainly a time in my journey that I got lost in that. And outside looking in, if I get to go to all the big rodeos. I get to be the guy. There's so many people that would love to have my rodeo schedule and announcing schedule, and that's not lost on me. But there certainly is time that it comes at a cost. And there was, again, like I said, times in my journey where it's like, I put the pressure on myself. I wasn't sure how to deal with it, with the emotions and feelings that were attached to that. And I really found myself kind of, struggling. And I always said at the toughest point was, I could stand in front of 25,000 people and it was the greatest feeling in the world. But hours later, why do I feel so lost and lonely? Those never made sense to me for a long time. So there was a lot of that in this. It's like, man, you're driving the ship and you're in front of the people and things like that. And man, it fills you up and it's great. And then a couple hours later, it's like, you're coming down. It's like Nasty after that big game, right? Season's over. It's like, I'm doing everything I love. I'm playing professional football. And then there's this time. It's like, why does it feel so empty? Why am I lost here? I'm living the dream, man. So there were certainly moments like that for me in my career.
Well, and that's one of the things that's interesting to me too, because like you've gone through that. I'm sure there's, through the course early career with your eyes up there, looking at the next big prize. Who do I have to beat? And then for a while, you're fending off everybody trying to undercut you from behind or trying to step in on some of those gigs. But you just stay steady through it. And the consistency, I'm sure it's your consistency that keeps you at the top of the game. But one of the things as we bring you into the men's mental health night, which will be movie night, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. At one point, you do make that transition from professional rodeo announcer, doing all the tours, all the television, all the big events, to becoming a licensed counselor and a speaker, and really just your passion. I won't say it changed, but you just discovered a passion for men's mental health and connecting with men. What was that transition like, and what sparked that?
Yeah, I think a lot of that story that I kind of told and alluded to when I was kind of struggling, and really, I guess it comes down to the idea of like, I was struggling to show up how I wanted to. Like I just wanted to be a better dad. I always say, I mean, I don't say I'm the best at anything, but I might have the best family in the world. Like that's the only thing that I'll take you to the end of. But I have a tremendous family and an incredible wife and all of these things. And I always say I was struggling to show up as the dad I wanted to be and the husband that I wanted to be and the friend that I wanted to be. And I just I felt like I didn't have as much happiness and joy as I wanted to. So when it just came to the point for me, and whether it was rock bottom for me or whatever we have to call it, if we have to call it anything, I just thought I need to make some changes. And that's when I reached out for some help from some friends and some professional help. And for me, the biggest thing I learned in that moment when I started to be able to make some shifts with some support, it's like, holy smokes, I finally realized what everybody was saying. Like I couldn't do it alone. I wanted to run a better race. I just needed some help to do it. And then the more I dug into it, I just learned that I was so not alone. People often say to me, it's like, Brett, we appreciate your vulnerability and your willingness to tell your story. And they're like, oh, that must be tough. It's like, it's not hard for me. And I say, why isn't it hard for me? Because I know that I'm so not alone in this. Yeah. I don't want to project anything onto you two guys, but it's like, yeah, there's been times that have been really tough. That we needed a hand up. Every one of us on this call, it's like, no, man, I'm not the minority here, right? It's like we all battle through some stuff, and sometimes we need a hand. And really, then what motivated that is when I started to talk about it a little bit more. I had some wonderful people that I just think the world of. They're like, hey, man, geez, I feel the same way sometimes. So it was really the motivation to try and help better. Because I always say I love people so much and I love potential. How can I just help people feel better? How can I help people feel less like I did when it was really tough for me? So that's really what motivates me now. And it motivated me to go and do my master's. And yeah, I work as a clinical and performance psychologist now when I can, when my schedule allows, and then doing my doctoral work in sports and performance psychology. So it's been a wonderful ride, but it's just to try and help people. I just love helping people. And if I can do it a little bit better by learning and improving myself, let's go friggin' do that, brother.
So you're not a competitive driven guy at all, eh?
Yeah,
so I discovered this course. So I went and got my master's, right? Because what else are you going to do when you discover something? And then, but let's bring this back down to something a little that's relevant to us, because you are absolutely correct. In fact, one of the best things that I've seen over the last 10 to 15 years is the bro check. I think we realize that there's a whole new set of pressures on guys. There's always been pressures on guys, but the world's changed a lot in the last 15 years. And it's important that we check on each other. And you're right. You ask around, you don't have to make many calls before you find a guy that's really struggling and ready to talk. Mm-hmm. But for you, when you said, I reached out to some friends, reached out for some professional help. I think there's a lot of guys, that's a hard first step to take, right? Like, well, how do I do that? Do I open up to my beer buddy? Do I go get? I'm not calling a psychologist. Like, what am I going to do? I'll maybe go get a pill from my doctor. Like, how did that process go for you when you first reached out and said, I'm not good, guys. I need a hand. Right? What was that like for you?
Yeah.
And so other people can kind of relate and refer and just give an idea of what that's like to reach out like that.
Yeah, and thanks for asking that question, because that's always the big question, isn't it? It's like the first step. What is that? And especially as men, when we don't, like, I don't know. So we want to kind of shove that back down because it feels really often gross, like to think of asking for help. Because I mean, we're providers, we're doers, we're fixers, we're all these things. But for me, it just finally got to the point where it's like I was just I just hated feeling like the way that I was feeling. And for me personally, and again, I don't want to overproject. It's like, again, I always look back, like I felt lost and lonely. I didn't like it anymore. And I didn't like who I thought I was becoming. And I remember just reaching out to a friend, and my first words, like I remember looking at him, and it was someone that I trusted. And I just said, hey, I don't know what's going on with me, man, but it's like I got this 10,000 pound weight on my chest and I can never catch my breath. And that's for me, that's what it felt like. I was struggling up to that point. My emotions were coming through and I didn't know what was going on. And it's scary when we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know, man.
What did he say to you? What did he say to you?
You know what? He said, hey, I'm sorry. How can I help you? And I said to him, I have no clue, man. And I walked away. And how did I feel after? I felt really scared and really mad. You know, it was like, oh man, I felt way better. In the moment, no, I didn't. Just to be completely honest. And I think that it's important that we're honest and transparent here, because it's like, but a few hours later and the next morning, it's like, okay, it felt like I just cracked it open enough. That next day, I said to another friend of mine, I said, hey, I said, I got to tell you something, man. I said, I don't know if something's up with me, but I got this 10,000 pound weight on my chest all the time, and I feel like I can't catch my breath. And he said the exact same thing, man. He's like, geez, I'm sorry. How can I help you? And I didn't know. I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know. I said, he's like, you're probably just burnt out, man. He's like, you're just always going. I remember that was kind of the first time I thought about this burnout piece, because he'd mentioned it, and he says, man, I've been there. And that was where that conversation ended. But I'm happy you brought up the bro check piece, because the next day that gentleman sent me a picture, and it was basically like, you know, hey, today's the day, let's go get it type of thing. Just kind of some motivational piece. But I'm like, oh, he's got me.
Yeah.
And it's in those couple minutes that we just chatted about, I know, and somebody listens, oh, okay. Those were huge in my journey and my realignment. It was just, I just had to let it out. I was hanging on to this thing for so long, thinking I was fooling everybody, that the guy that must go on the stage and deliver in front of 25,000 people, oh, you can't see in, baby, because it doesn't matter, man. If TSN is counting you in 5, 4, 3, and it's 7 p.m. and you got a live show to do, I don't care how you're feeling, Gardiner. You know, and they don't say that. They're great, but story in my head, you better deliver. This is who you are. This is your identity, man. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Right? Until we can't. Just until we can't. So it was like, I got to do this. I can't. I had everything just focused on this identity and this Brett Gardiner announcer guy. And that was my value and worth. And I was just overwhelmed. I was burnt out, felt lost and lonely. I couldn't catch my breath until I finally said to somebody, hey, I'm not okay, dude. And they didn't have an answer for me. And that's okay. But they were willing to hold space for me.
Yeah.
I got you. Let's figure this out. That was huge for me.
Yeah, that's great, Brett. I have a question on that based on the guys that are listening. So, let's set the tone a little bit. If I have someone call and says, man, I feel this pressure on my chest. Now you're kind of in that clinical state. You're the professional. How do the guys that are receiving that information from their friends, what would be their next step to try or advice to help them?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think there's huge power in, again, that holding space piece. And that's kind of I say it's not for everybody, but it's like sometimes we just have to be able to say it. There's tremendous power in me just almost being able to let it go, to take those 10 minutes with somebody, just no judgment. I just need somebody to listen to me. And don't ever undervalue the power of that. Like, man, Daryl, I just need to, right? And we kind of chat it through, or and I'm not always looking for answers or solutions, but I will start in a situation with a pal like that. It's like, oh man, I'll just, validate feelings. Man, I'm so sorry you feel that way. That must be tough. Tell me more. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. What else is going on? Dude, I can hear your voice. What's on your mind,
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I like to think guys are getting better at that, right? Like for me, if there's somebody that's close in my life, or a buddy or a guy I haven't even seen in years, but old teammate, and you come across, when somebody reaches out and gives you, it's just a code. You don't need to give the full story right away. Yeah. But I think you can look a guy in the eye and know that, okay, you're bringing this up for one reason, and it's because this thing's killing you.
Yeah.
And I, the nice thing about the bro check culture we're starting to develop is I think guys are more comfortable now to put it out there, and to receive it. Like, and I think because you don't have to know what to do or know what to say. That was a great lead in. I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to help? Yeah. That we're still trying to learn what we could do to help. But like you just said, sometimes it is just to listen, let it get off, let it process. And that's part of the process of figuring out what the heck's going on with me in the early stages. So now you've taken this from the clinical training, but tell us a little bit about the shirt you're wearing and the organization that you started.
Yeah, the old the chase the good movement. I always say it's a it's a movement and a mindset. And I guess if I'm to give you some more context to tell you the story, when that thing COVID, which we don't talk about near as much anymore, which is good. When it kind of hit, it was interesting. I had done a lot of personal development work, and I was feeling like I was in a good place, and was working through my master's at that time. And so I had a pretty strong understanding of kind of the psychology world and what that entailed. But when COVID hit, I would say I had 91 live events cancel in 9 days.
Jeez.
Phones just ringing, emails are coming in, and that's how I support my family. It was usually with microphone in hand, and I'm like, whoa. Now all of a sudden, I went from being really busy to having this year that's wide open. And again, I was really kind of lost. Like I just did not know what to do, and felt like I was kind of dipping down back, just full of anxiety and feeling those depressive symptoms coming again. And I was sitting in my office and was kind of obviously looking pretty sad because my daughter, she was 9 at the time, and she said, "Dad, are you okay?" I thought, I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." And she says, "Well, what's wrong?" Like, I mean, she could just see it all over my face, and trying to keep it together. But it's amazing how at 9 years old, she's reading me like a book. And I said, "I'm sorry, honey. I'm just really sad." And she said, "Dad, it's going to be okay." And I thought, okay, how do you know it's going to be okay? Because she says, "We're just going to do what you always tell us to. And that's to keep chasing the good stuff in the world." And, it came at that moment right there where it just kind of got tattooed on my heart that it was really like, I've got a choice, and I'm going to choose to chase what's good in the world. And we use it a lot in our family, and it's motivated us to do some things as a family to try and help some other people. Because I always think in anything that we do and this journey that I'm on and trying to support others in, it's like we have to be intentional. And I think there's so many things, even again in 2025, there's more ugly things that we can focus on than we can list in hours and hours of a podcast. But if we have to make that choice, I choose to chase what's good in the world. I choose to be intentional, and I choose to try and help others do the same. So that's really where the Chase the Good movement came in. And like I said, it's a mindset and a movement for us, and we're just trying to help everybody along the way as we can.
I bet your heart was just pounding when your 9-year-old daughter looks up to you and says something that just connects with you. Just, when the kids get it, or when the kids, you're always taking care of them, but those times when they just really get it and it's like they take care of you, and it's like, it's just such a moment, isn't it?
So good, man. Best feeling in the world. It's just so gratifying as a parent. They bring out all the good in you. So yeah, it's amazing, man.
So you're right though. Like it is, and I can't say this is the hardest time to be a man by any means, because I wasn't a man back when my dad was a man, right? But there is a lot in 2025. There is a whole lot going on. You take a look around the world, unrest in the world, political things. No Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup in 25 years. Whatever your thing is, you can find something that's just going to sit there and plot you. But you talk about the intentionality, right? And that's a great word, right? Intentionality. Okay, hey, I'll just choose the good. How do you choose the good when you're surrounded by a world of crap? You've got financial pressure, your team sucks, your party's not getting into office, and you just feel the world's against you. It's so easy just to get lost in that. How do you choose the good in that situation?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's hard, but I think it's the best work that we can do a lot of times. And again, to lean on that word of being intentional, I always think, and one of the things that I talk to a lot of the people I work with, whether it's athletes or whether it's individual clients or corporations, it's like one of the things I always try and instill, I'm like, protect your focus with all your might. Say, like, where our focus goes, our energy flows, and we will find anything we want to in the world with the Googles and the news and the everything. It's like, I will find anything I'm looking for, good, bad, or ugly. So I think we have to back that up a step. And again, it comes down to that mindset piece of like, I have to be intentional in what I consume. This is not, I'm trying to lose a few pounds. What am I putting into my body? But it's like, where am I getting my information from? And am I intentional so that I can hold the power? One of the ways that I like to start that process is like, and I know some people are journalers, some people aren't. One of the things that I'll try and start my day with all the time, it's like, I know I can go two ways. It's like, am I looking for things that are going to trigger me? Like, am I getting up in the morning and consuming the news or looking at, what's the tariff and what's Trump up to today? I can go there, and a lot of people do, but I know that this doesn't make me feel great. So it's like, I can also look for things that we would call like therapeutically as like the glimmers. What are the things that make me feel that 1 or 2% better? So the first thing that I'm going to do every day, I'm going to try and find some glimmers. I'll even work with clients and I'll say, first thing you got to do in the morning is send me 3 glimmers. Hey, my kids are excited to go to school. Cool. Hey, you know what? We're going to look at a new car for my son because he got his license last week. My wife and I had a wonderful supper last night. Whatever it may be that somehow just shifts us into this moment almost of gratitude, right? I mean, gratitude practice is a big thing, but I think it's so important when we can establish that mindset early, and I intentionally protect my focus. So I'll even list, what are 3 things that I'm excited about today? I want to intentionally start to look for the glimmers and the good things rather than, sometimes we get stuck scrolling on our phone and we're looking at the news. Okay, so go and do that tomorrow and tell me how you feel 10 minutes later. And if you're like, I'm good, cool, I got you. Yeah, man, I'll hitch myself to your wagon. But if you feel like, man, I'm a little crummy and I'm a little moody and I don't get to show up for my kids when I get down to the breakfast table, okay, then we need to recalibrate some things. We need to readjust and protect our focus, especially to set up that day. Let's find some glimmers, right? And then it's like, I was good till lunchtime. Okay, then we set a timer in your phone. Give me 2 more things. Oh man, I packed a phenomenal lunch today. And I'm like, leftover Chinese food and pizza for me. Like if I want to have a good day, that's me, baby. I'm going to try and set myself up in those moments when I'm feeling good and regulated for when those tougher moments are coming throughout the day or throughout the week, right? So again, I'm intentional, I'm focused, I'm protecting that focus, but I'm also trying to reflect on how those things make me feel. I'm checking in with myself throughout the day. How am I? Holy smokes, I'm freaking tired and grumpy. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, what do I need to do? Do I have something that can shift me back out of that? If not, that's where we go to work, right? What tools can we build in here? What conversations can we have?
And I love the way you phrase that, protecting it, right? Because these days you really have to. If we've learned anything about ourselves in the last 10 years, is that we are basically, our brains are a walking, talking algorithm just waiting to be played with. So that everything that we consume, we can consume anything and it's coming directly to us, and it's sort of like feeding, sugar to rats, right? It's just, I think rats like sugar, but it's so, everything's so hyper directed right to what tickles our little fancies. Sure. And that protection, I think, is becoming, if there's a new discipline that men have to, and mankind has to learn over the coming years, is how do we get out of this? Pretty soon we've got programming algorithms that are appealing to us. And that's the word protection. I think that's something we really have to be mindful of. I think it has a bigger impact on us than we sometimes care to admit.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. And science supports all that. Like just what you said, that algorithm, it's just trying to, get more clicks and get more views and all the things. And where does it take us? And again, I'm usually pretty optimistic and try and stay pretty positive and things like that. But, you look at the science behind social media and how it impacts kids. The anxious generation was kind of the book of the summer and kind of that education social media world, and just the science behind, the inability for us to kind of protect the focus when it matters and what they're consuming. It's tough. It's hard, Yeah, it's a thing.
Hey, Nasty, I think we should give our sponsors a little bit of exposure here, have a quick little break. And I think maybe we can come back and maybe finish up a few things on the May 22nd Men's Mental Health Movie Night.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, as always, the Ride with Chevy Nasty is brought to you by Performance Freight Management, We Drone YYC, Real Estate Media, and the YYC Calgary Business Group. Guys, we really appreciate all you do, keeping us on the tracks here on this ride. Guys, we are going to take a quick break then. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Men's Mental Health Movie Night coming up in Cochrane.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
want your business to be known. YYCCalgaryBusiness.ca is Calgary's only online media platform that gets you noticed. Short-form video content is rapidly taking over as the most effective way to engage your audience. Whether you're being interviewed on a vodcast, sharing a sizzle reel, or even hosting your own show, there is one place you can publicize your business. We want to tell your story and introduce you to our network of empowered business owners and leaders right here in Calgary. Isn't it time you took your digital game to 11? Call us or email us now.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to the ride. And what a ride it's been. I'll tell you, Brett, I've heard you speak before. I've seen you at events, but it's just been a thrill to be able to sit down here and have a conversation and get some of the inside scoop about your ride and your journey. I really appreciate you being here today.
Well, I so much appreciate you guys having me and the opportunity to talk about it. So thank you.
And what also brings us together is our second annual event put together by Performance Freight Management and Daryl. Daryl, tell us a little bit about what we have coming up here a little later this spring.
Yeah, it's excellent. We got a great, like Nasty said, we got our second annual Men's Mental Health Movie Night. It's in Cochrane at the Cochrane Movie House. Thank you to Hal Wolf and his team that are going to be putting us on. It's bigger, better, and bolder this year. We've got 2 screens, so we're going to run 2 screens. We got The Final Reckoning with Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, the movie we're playing. It's going to be incredible. But before that, it's going to be outstanding. Of course, we've got this gentleman with us right now, Brett Gardiner, that's going to be our keynote speaker. And, he's been with us a couple times already. He's been with Performance Freight Management for quite a while working on our mental health. But I think it's really important. We're just, today get together and find out, what are people really going to expect when Brett Gardiner shows up in Cochrane at the Men's Mental Health Movie Night? What are they going to expect, Brett?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I might have to tell you, if it starts at 7, I'll tell you at 7:45 what they're going to get. After it's done, I'm going to say, no. I think I think most importantly, an opportunity just to have a great conversation about men's mental health and offering some permission. I think one of the words I always lean on is events like that. I mean, they build such phenomenal connection, and I just love that. It's bringing men together to talk about something that we all feel, especially on this call, is really important. So I think first and foremost, it gives us just a platform to do that. It gives us the ability and I love that it's called men's mental health, because sometimes even in today's age, we kind of flirt around that idea or the tone of the conversation or the title. There's still some stigmas in it for sure, but it's like, man, it's big and bold and better. It's Men's Mental Health Night right on top of the poster. So, and that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to spend some time kind of discussing what it is. But I think my style kind of in that keynote world is, I always find myself, I'm a solution-focused thinker, and I want to jump in the trenches with people. I want to try and have these conversations and share some experiences that helped me through my journey when I was kind of struggling, and the struggles that I still face. By no means is it like, oh, every day's sunshine and rainbows now. It's still tough out there. Things are changing. What are the unique stressors, and what can we do to try and show up as our very best through kind of telling some stories and bringing in some clinical experience and my background in education, just to try and bring that all together to offer some people, like I said, first and foremost, that space, that permission. Because that was one of the things that I really felt I needed, the permission to be able to talk about it. As soon as you walk in those doors, it's like this immediate permission, man. We're all there. Feel free. Let's roll on. Safe space. And for a lot of people, we're going to be able to create that. And then hopefully we can give them a few things to take away so that they can leave there and take some action. How can they change their process to help them reach their goals so that they can feel the way that they want to feel more consistently?
See, and that's what I love about it, because I even look at the space behind you there, right? You call that your counseling office, and and you've got turf, you've got training equipment, you've all of us came from a pro sports background, whether actually competing or as a broadcaster. Was it because we were just that good and they just picked us and we were pros? No, we had to work at it. We had to train on it. We had to compete for it. We had to train our body. If you got an injury, you go to the trainer, you go to the doctor. But for when it comes to our mental health, and I don't just mean yes, we're there for you when you are sad, when you are down. We have to be there for each other. But the other thing men go through is I want that edge. I want to keep that edge. I want to accomplish the goals that I have in my life. What kind of surprised me the most about last year, our first event, I didn't know what to expect either. You know, we're just up there emceeing. By the end of it, listening to your story, over the course of a few hours, I was motivated. I was touched. I had some real deep conversations. Right. I had some really fun conversations. I met some amazing people, which to be honest, I just thought it'd be up there. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was really impressed by what went on that night. But it was the next day when I'm getting calls from friends that a group of brothers got together, a bunch of high school buddies came to it, meeting people I hadn't seen in years. Everybody's reaching out, talking about what a great night it is. So, Daryl, thank you again for this, because I think it's a brilliant concept. Just get guys together. It's not a big hug fest unless you want it to be. Yeah. Right. but you're also free to tell some jokes. You're free to meet some amazing people. Can I say who the headlines? Well, obviously Brett's there, but our intro speaker is going to be. Are we allowed to release that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Coach Ryan Huska with the Calgary Flames. He's getting involved in this. Really cool guy. Nika, I haven't met him myself yet, but Daryl, I know you guys have had some great conversations, and he's got a heart for this kind of thing as well. Yeah,
it's a great space. I think we've got. Like Brett said, we've got this men's mental health, and over the last year, since we, finalized last year's first annual, there's been a lot of movement, and I've engaged with Brett. Brett's been a great ally and partner in trying to chase the good, do this mental health movement. And, a lot of people are starting to come and attract to this movement, and with the ride and Chase the Good and the mental health movement. And specifically over the last month, the traction, for this mental health movie night, we've already got, 70 plus guys, and we just released it like 7 days ago, and we're going for 2 screens. I've got, over 10 sponsors already, and I got some big name sponsors. I got WestJet, I've got High Tech Rigging, I've got the Calgary Flames. We've got some traction, and it all starts with guys like Brett and Sheldon and Randy and, Chevy Nasty and the ride. That's where it all starts. And, I think it's so valuable. Like Brett said, our goal for the men's mental health movie night is to give permission so they can talk about their feelings and their emotions. And, Brett said it multiple times. You've said it, Nasty, multiple times. Like, we got to get together. We got to get up and get out. And that's what it's about. So it's exciting. I can't wait. We got lots of things going on with it for sure.
Well, let's just hit that home again one more time. Daryl, what's the night of the event?
So it's May 22nd. It's a hard start at 6 p.m. We're going to have networking from about 6 to 6:45. We've got some trade show booths and some people that are involved in the community and non-for-profits. And then right at 7 o'clock, we're going to start with Brett and Ryan, and we're going to roll in for probably close to 45 minutes to an hour. And then we'll get kicked off with the movie probably around 8 o'clock. But it's a night full of events, and we're there right till the end. Hal says, we got the house. We don't have to go in.
And we've got the link up there where you can find tickets or how you can get your seat. But for those listening today, Daryl, where can you send them to make sure that they can reserve their seats for attendance?
Yeah, the quickest way to do it right now is just send it to my email. It's daryl@pfmfreight.com. And we'll have that on the link as well. You'll see that up there. And and if anybody wants to just reach out and touch base with us, that's the easiest way to get involved. And we'll have posters all around the place. Everyone's moving and shaking, getting excited about this.
Right on. Well, guys, thanks again for joining us here today. He's Brett Gardiner. Brett, I can't wait to see you. Like I said, you had me on my toes last time I heard you speak. It was awesome. I can't wait to hear you again. Daryl, thanks for filling in for Chevy this week. It's a lot of fun. I think I kind of like co-hosting with you. And thanks to all you guys for listening, and those of you that are watching. And make sure you check it out. We would love to see you. I think tickets last year sold out pretty quickly, so we're expecting the same thing this year. But you know where to go to find it. And once again, guys, thanks so much for joining us this week. We'll catch you next time on The Ride.